This episode is going to be a bit special. We promised you a market update on a monthly basis, and this is exactly what we're going to do, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper. We're going to go model by model, strictly based on the sales that we have done throughout the year. So Adrian was kind enough to go into some of our reporting tools, pull out some numbers on specific numbers, i.e. today we're going to talk about Rolex, and give you the prices for which these items actually sold, coming out with an average, and i.e. the current market price. Adrian, thank you for joining me today. We're going to jump right in, and again, today's topic is Rolex. Which model do you want to start with?
So before we jump right into the actual models themselves, since we are 2 quarters, or otherwise known as halfway through the year.
Halftime, baby.
Halftime, baby. I thought we gathered sufficient enough evidence, or data, I would say, from our sales, our actual sales, hard sales and I wanted to use brand new models, brand new examples, because I feel like that's most consistent. Obviously, when we're talking about Rolex, a brand new price versus a pre-owned price, it's not that big of a swing, but to keep things on an even keel, I wanted to go new.
Well, perhaps we can maybe then, at the end of each model, give them a swing. Let's say, we'll give the average prices on the brand new models and percentage deviation, and when we get into.
I think the deviation is fair to say just across the board, especially for these high premium models, is within 10%. I think you can use that as basis within 10%.
So 10% if we're talking about pre-owned versus new,
Correct.
And what if we're talking about complete versus naked?
So complete versus naked, you could say 20 to 25%. But then again, we don't really sell many naked watches here.
That is true.
So I think.
Well, let's jump right into it because lots of models to discover. This is supposed to be a short episode. We don't want to keep these people long. Let's just jump right through it.
All right, so what I wanted to discuss was obviously a few of the key models, that being the Panda Daytona, the regular black Daytona, Platinum Daytona, and then the John Mayer. I didn't want to really get into any other precious metals. I did include a white gold blue dial because I saw some spikes in pricing. Then we jump into the GMTs. We got your Batmans, Batgirls, Pepsis, on Jubilee, Pepsi, Oysters, two-tone root beer, as well as a full gold root beer because there was a little bit of price volatility there. Then we dive into the Submariner line, and we cover all of them from stainless steel to no dates, stainless steel sub, date, no date, two-tone bluesy, two-tone black, and then the precious metal ones. Then we go into the Sky Dweller line and we talk about, and I wanted to specifically narrow in on the blue Sky Dweller because that's obviously by far our most requested one. And then we went into colorful OPs as well as the rose gold olive.
All right, let's get to the first one.
So let's jump right into the stainless steel Daytona reference 116500 LN, otherwise known as the Panda, the most popular watch on the market. And I'm going to go month by month and then give an average of what we sold over the year.
Now, the month by month numbers, these are average numbers of all.
So these are the average numbers of watches that we sold brand new, right? So
on a particular model per month. All right, let's go.
So January for a 116500 LM Panda, we have 30,500. February 34,000. March 35,000. April 35,500. May 33,500, and then June 32,500 for an average of 33,500 on the Panda. Next up, we have the 116500 LM Black, which is the black dial Daytona. January 28,000, February 29,000, March 29,500, April 29,500, May 28,000, and then June 28,000 for an average of 28,600 on the year.
You know what I'm seeing with this, and just got by the first model, I'll tell you right off the bat, we're seeing normal market.
Yeah.
This is how the market's at, because markets were outside of the craze, markets were always pendant on timing, right? Mm-hmm. We know that beginning of the year is slow, it speeds up in the springtime, starts to slow back down in the summertime, and based on the numbers you just literally pulled out of our QuickBooks, it shows me exactly that, which I'm happy about because, again, I've been saying this for a couple of months, we're going back to normal times. Let's go to the next model.
So the next model I wanted to cover, obviously, was a John Mayer, and there's something very interesting that happens here.
There's a discontinuation.
Exactly. So in January, we had an average sales price of $80,000 for a brand new, February $86,000, March $91,000, and in April $105,000. And that, obviously, we can point to the discontinuation of the John Mayer finally. Then obviously all the craze happens. A lot of things are traded on the market. Bubble bursts. We come down to May, 90,000, June, 87,000 for an average of 89,800 for the John Mayer sold by Luxury Bazaar this year.
And this is showing you what happens on the secondary. This is a clear indication of speculation on the secondary. The pump in price post continuation was among the secondary market. These were prices mostly paid on the secondary market, or at least the ask on the primary, based on current availability of product. And this is a very distinct indication of what happens when a Rolex model gets discontinued. And again, back to normal. This is what happens.
Yep.
It happened. This is what's happened. Erase COVID, hype. This is what's happened in the market for years and years and years. Next model.
Next model, I wanted to cover the 116509 blue, honestly, just because I like it. So this is a selfish one. So in January, we have 51,000. February, we have 50,000. March, we have 51,000. April, 51.5. May, 47,000. And June, 46,000 for an average of 49,400 for the white gold blue Daytona. Next up, we have...
Which I think is a shame. One of my favorite Daytonas, by the way.
Next up, we have the Platona.
The Platona. This is an interesting one.
One of the models that met a very, very bad fate for some who paid, upwards of 2x retail for the watch. So we're going to cover the regular dial first, the 116506 Platona, which is now discontinued. January, 108,000. February, an average of 110,000. March, 110,000. April, 115,000, right around the time of the discontinuation. May back down to 107, June to 105, giving us an average of 109,000 for a brand new Platinum Daytona 2023.
So surprisingly, this is something that didn't really see the same type of jump as a John Mayer did. It's so a little bit of a jump, but because it's already a six-figure watch, when you get into six-figure watches, I guess the volatility is not as bad or as high. It just sort of hovers around that same price plus 10%. And I think the reason behind it is because this is a six-figure watch, and it's also a watch that was upwards of $200,000.
John Mayer was also a six-figure watch, but the thing with the John Mayer is just it's so bold and there's so much character and it's so green and yellow, right? It's very flashy in regards to the Platona, which is much more subdued. So that brings us to the 116506 Diamond Dial. January price of 120. February 122, March 132, April 135,000, May back down to 125, and June 122,000, giving us an average of 126 on the year for the Diamond Dial Platona.
Which again makes sense, right? You oftentimes when Adrian does the buying and when we buy Rolexes here, it's a very simple process if you think of it. There's a value in the addition of a diamond dial, a diamond bezel, an MOP dial, and so because all those dials they actually have a value from Rolex. We know what the additional cost is. It's very easy for you guys to figure out. Look at the retails, right? If one retails for this, the difference is the cost of that fancy special dial.
Even though if Rolex presents a retail price difference of a diamond dial versus a non-diamond dial, we don't really take that into account when purchasing a watch, right?
True.
It really depends on the model.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the GMT Master II, Batmans and Batgirls, Pepsis and Pepsi Jubilees and Oysters. Obviously, this is our number one seller, as we've seen by the data in our QuickBooks.
And mind you, would say that the Rolex Daytona is the number one selling most popular watch, but it's
for us,
just
in terms of volume for us.
But in terms of volume, think about what's more accessible: your steel Daytonas 100%. Or GMTs, and 100%. That's why you're going to see us saying things like, "Hey, the GMTs are going to be our number one seller because they're more accessible."
Of course. Since ladies go first, we're going to start off with the Batgirls, and for January we have 18,000, February 18,000, March 18.5, April 18.5, May 19,000, June 18.5 for an average of 18.4. Which again, a lot of people are speculating on the market, but here's clear data that shows that these watches are trading flat, which is very
well. I wouldn't say flat.
No,
okay.
Like,
I wouldn't say
not
flat.
volatile.
On the last couple of unboxings, every time I come across any type of GMT, been saying the same thing over and over. So it's like they bottomed out around that $16,000 price range. Mm-hmm. They quickly jumped up to 18 to 19, and they're steady trading. So which means that I can clearly, in the very least, I'm confident to say that most across these models, including the GMTs, we found that bottom. Usually when you find the bottom, you see a little jump, and it sort of stays steady.
And of course, with the Batman Oysters, you're going to see pretty much relatively the same exact numbers as you were for the Batgirls. January 18.2, February 18.5, March 18.5, April 19, May 19, June 18.5, for giving you an average of 18.6. Do you also see a certain trend, even given just the Daytonas and GMTs, on price levels in June, why they're lower? Well, so historically, in summer's
dead,
right? So end of spring, beginning of summer, kids are out of school, kids are in camp, people are traveling, people are vacationing. Market naturally starts to slow down, and then that leads to price levels coming down just a little bit. But it's not.
But it's at a normal pace.
Very, very normal pace. Exactly.
So this is what should take sort of a lot of people are scared, right? And this takes the scare out of the market when you start seeing the dip in the summer months become normal as it always has been. Guys, it's very simple. We're busy up until Christmas. right? New Year comes around. The first 2 weeks of January are usually dead. It starts to pick up end of
Yep.
January, gets hot in the springtime, slows back down around June time.
like this, yeah.
First 2 weeks of June is still okay. The slowest month, I would say, second month of June, July, 2 weeks of August, and the last 2 weeks of August is when we see a tremendous pickup, and it's been a cycle like this for years. Next model.
Jumping into the Pepsi, we're going to start off with the Pepsi Jubilee, January 21,000, February 21,200, March 21,500, April 21,500, May 21,000, June 22,500, giving you an average of 21,500. Interesting little piece of data there. You notice in June we sold a few Pepsi Jubilee brand news at a higher price than we have throughout the year. And that's a clear indication of what I actually heard was going to happen earlier in the year with the slowdown of allocation of Pepsis, and we're seeing it crystal clear on the market. Going back to the oysters, they're literally the same prices across the board, so I don't think it makes sense to give those.
I will comment this on that. We talked about timing in the seasons, but there's also such thing as timing and availability. Because remember, it's not like this is a set amount of pieces that come out every day from the factory to the ADs, to the public, to guys like us, and so on and so forth. It does go in waves. We find ourselves sometimes in the markets where I'll walk into agent's office and you say, you know what, the market is dry on Pepsi Jubilees, or the market is dry on no-date subs. And this happens every so often across different models in the market, because this is not exact science, right? So you're going to see that volatility on availability just the same, and that oftentimes causes a little bit of a jump. But again, we're in the normal market. In a hot market, that jump sometimes could have resulted in a 20, 30, sometimes even 40% jump, right? Where in a normal market, this results in a 5 to 10%
Absolutely.
jump.
So we're
Up or down?
Yeah, so we're going to conclude the GMT lines with the two-tone root beer as well as the full gold Ever Rose root beer. I'm not going to get into the yellow gold ones yet because there's just not enough sufficient data, but I will say that the two-tones are trading at about 35% over MSRP from what I'm seeing, and the full gold at just under 30% of a premium. So jumping right into the two-tone root beer, actually my favorite two-tone watch behind the Patek 5980 1AR. We're going to go into January figures of 21,150, February 21,250, March 22,000, April 22,000, May 21,500, June 22 for an average of 21,650 on the year. And then finally wrapping up the GMT full gold, or we're going to add a little bit of gold into the bracelet, wrapping up with the full gold for a watch that we sold at the peak at $60,000. So for January, we have 44,500, February 44,100, March 43,000, April 42,350. That's a clear indication of negotiation. May 42,000 and June 42,000 for an average price of around 43,000. So this is one of our first examples. This is something I wanted to point out here. This is one of our first examples of a full gold watch from Rolex that's going back down to about retail levels plus a little bit. That's kind of where things are balancing out, and you're going to see that with the full gold subs, and you're going to see that with most day dates minus the olive, which we'll jump into. So let's dive into the Submariner line. Like what I did there?
I see what you did there.
See what I did there? So with the date sub 41 reference 126610, that's a 41 millimeter sub date. January 15.5, February 15.5, March 15,000, April 14.8, May 14.8, June 14.7, giving us an average of 15,050 on the year.
Yeah, not a big volatility there. Nope. It's trading where it's trading, and again, I guess next time we do this, we'll actually put number of sales behind this as well. So because we are taking an average across every month. On an average, we're
talking about brand new. Remember,
brand new. On an average. Brand new Rolexes, it'd be fair to say that we probably sell upwards of 20 a month, brand new.
Yeah, most of them CPO.
Yeah, most of them are CPO, but we do sell a fair share of them brand new. So the average numbers that we're throwing at you, it's not like 1,000 pieces a month. We don't sell that much. I wish we did.
Even if we did, we would not see.
But the average would be the same.
Yeah. So we're going to jump into the sub no date reference 124060, January 13,500, February 13,500, March 13,200, April 13,000, May 12,500, June 12,500, bringing us to an average of $13,033.
$33. I'm starting to see a trend here.
Two-tone sub black 126613 LN, January 17,500, February 17,500, March 17,500, April 17,000, May 17,200. We didn't sell a two-tone black. Oh, I'm sorry. In June, we did not sell a two-tone black. I got to throw it in there. But you can imagine it's probably around 17,000. Therefore, averaging the year at 17,300 and trading, again, pretty flat. Bluesy, 126613, January 18350, February 185, March 185, April 185, May 185, June, well, you guessed it, 185. Now, guys, remember, and we covered this topic before, these are brand new examples of everything that I'm covering. Now to the gold models, I can just save everybody a bunch of time on the blacks and the blues and just give you a pretty general overview and let you know that the black dial 126618LN is trading pretty much at an MSRP, and the bluesy is averaging at about 7% over MSRP. We can just say that flat out across the board.
Yeah, it's funny. If you're talking about subs, gold two-tone, the verdict is the same. Your black is less popular than the blue. Yeah. Hence, you've seen that shown across the gold models as well as the steel and the two-tone.
So let's come out of the sea and back into the sky with the Sky Dweller. I had to throw it in there.
Where did you come up with all these corny puns? That's what I want to know. Ian, did you write this for him?
They're interjections. We're diving, jumping. So if you're diving, you're going sub. If you're jumping, you're going
You don't want to do that in the same day.
What?
You don't want to dive and skydive and dive in the same day.
I don't do that. I try to stay flat.
Yeah, I'm into self-preservation. I like my feet on the ground.
So
Sky Dwellers, let's do it.
As I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of different variations of sky. I kind of wanted to save everybody time and just discuss the blue one because that's obviously the fan favorite. So
that's not the fan favorite. That's the market indicator. Your blue Sky Dweller, stainless steel, whether it's Jubilee or Oyster, that's your indicator. That's your pulse.
100%. So Oyster. So we're going to discuss the Oysters first. January 25,000, February 25,000, March 24.5, April 24, May 23.5, June 23.5, giving us an average 24,250 on the year for the Oyster. For the Jubilee, 26.5 in January, 26,000 in February, 26.5 in March, 25,000 in April, 24.5 in June. Average of 25.3 on the year for the Sky Dweller Jubilee.
Again, very normal. We know that the Jubilee fetches a little bit more.
Correct.
And
they're also newer. There's not as many on the market.
Exactly. And you're looking at, again, the same thing that we've been going through thus far. What's the next model you got?
So for day dates, obviously there are many different metals with many different dial configurations, and that can get a little bit confusing. So I wanted to focus primarily on the rose gold olive because that's obviously...
Again, sort of like your blue sky.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to specifically hone in on that because of the volatility that the watch had, right? We sold a rose gold olive at the peak for $90,000. So I think it's very important to discuss the figures for 2023 and compare the two. January 55,000, February 55,000, March 55.4, April 55,000, May 53.5, June 53 for an average of 54,300, which is almost a 50% drop from the high of 90,000 in late 21.
Watches.
Retail on the watch is right around 40 out the door.
So, I mean, you're still trading at a healthy 20+% over list.
Exactly.
And the reason for that is because it's an uber popular watch.
100%.
Everybody loves it.
Watch.
Although I prefer the white gold blue.
The white gold as well? You like the white gold blue?
I like the white gold blue, I know.
So I wanted to wrap things up and discuss the OP41s, and I did want to exclude the blue, the black, and the silver just because...
They're just regular OPs.
Yeah, regular OPs. And then obviously I didn't cover any date just because we could just pretty much say for 41s across the board, your blues, your blacks, your Wimbledons, and your green motifs are still trading over a premium. And obviously with date just, we could sit here forever.
I think if we did a show on date just in all sizes, variations, I think this show would probably be about 16 hours.
My God.
Let's talk about the colorful OPs.
So,
Let's start with your favorite. Start with the green.
I'm going to start, because green is my favorite color. So for the green, red, yellow, and green, yellow, red, and Tiffany, obviously from Rolex is one of my favorite releases in their catalog, period.
41 millimeters.
41 millimeters. We're gonna discuss 41 millimeters across the board because we can sit here all day with 31s and 36s, but because 41s are traded the most for us, we're gonna discuss the 41s. We're going to jump right into the green, a watch that historically carried the least premium of the four over MSRP, and a watch that sold for us at the peak of 18,000. January, 11,000. February, 10,500. March, 10,500. April, 10,000. May, 10,000. June, 9,500. Red, January, 17,000. February, 17,500. March, we sold none. April, we sold none new, that is. May, 16,500. June, we also sold no new coral red Tiffany.
You can't get them.
What?
You can't get them.
Yeah, there's not a they
again. They're still trading at double list more. Actually, what's the retail on the 41 OP?
I think it's like 6,000 something.
60, about 7,000. So more than double. Staying strong. That's because listen, they got discontinued. They got discontinued at the time where the hype was still alive.
And again, I could have given everybody figures on pre-owned ones, but because I wanted to keep things equal and because we've been
But
discussing
we discussed earlier that pre-owned you're taking off about 10%.
Exactly.
Let's go to yellow. Let's leave the Tiffany for last.
We're going to leave the Tiffany for last. We're going to jump into the yellow. We sold in 2023 only about 3 brand new examples.
Steady.
Steady. Can't get them.
Tiffany.
And then we're going to finally jump into the Tiffany. So this is a very interesting one, the Tiffany, because this is the only watch that I can recall in my time that followed behind such a hype train of a competing watch brand. In other words, when the 5711 Tiffany dropped, is when the 124-300 Tiffany just exploded, right? And got into just ridiculous sales figures, over 40,000.
Nike made sneakers.
Yeah. It's a beautiful color, though.
I mean, it is a beautiful color. I mean, your wife wears one, I know.
Yeah. So 40,000, we sold it at the peak in January, 27,000, February, 26,000, March, no sales of a new, April, no sales of a new, May, 25,000, June, 25,000, for a 2023 average of 25,750 on the Tiffany.
That's just 4 times the retail. That's just insane. A couple things on the Tiffany, just to add. Again, discontinued in the hype market.
Yep.
Beautiful watch. The Tiffany hype is still alive. We're still seeing companies putting stuff out there. Absolutely. Pretty much every time they come out with a new brand. Tiffany has become part of the lineup for everyone. There's zero shame now across any brand to use that color, to include Nike. Forget watches, right? So I think we're going to see that stay for a while. Is that a fad that may eventually go away? We don't know. It could become the standard. But so far, the OP is holding extremely strong, and people still requesting it.
For sure.
There's a lot of expectation in the market. I see a lot of clients calling me, say, listen, I want the 41 Tiffany for my wife or for myself. And when I tell them the price, they get shell-shocked. But wait a minute, the market corrected. And it just goes to show when something is that popular, it doesn't matter what's going on in the market, the price is going to hold. And I think that's the norm. That's going to be the norm for the Tiffany 41.
There's not enough of them to dump onto the market and crater the market price.
One of the not issues, but one of the reasons, I should say, is that that's a watch often worn by women, whether it's 41 or 36 or 31. But 9 out of 10 purchases of a Tiffany 41 LP goes on a woman's wrist. And what do women not do? They don't trade their watches in. They don't sell. They hoard their stuff. They don't like selling their stuff. Yeah. So what I want to sum this up with is the following. Based on the numbers that we've given you, again, I'm telling you, I've been telling you for the last couple of months, and you get comments everywhere, YouTube, Instagram. Oh my God, everybody's panicking. Everybody's this. Nobody's panicking. And the reason nobody's panicking, in fact, we are very happy to be in the market that we're in because we've gone back to the norm. We're now placing pieces on customers' wrists without having to worry about the volatility that we saw post the drop and around the May-June time last year. We're seeing the market normalizing. 20 plus years in business, this is how the watch business is. It's plus minus 10 to 20%.
Just like any market.
Just like any other market, you're seeing this for a while. The only question I have is the following. We're going to be going into last couple of weeks of August, starting in September, we're going to be going into a busier, I'm using the word busier market, because as I mentioned earlier, again, it all depends on the timing of the year, right? Seasonal business. So we're going into the high season come last 2 weeks of August. What I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, at least give me your opinion on this, is that we're still going to see a bit more volatility, unlike what you're seeing here, because this is going to be the first high season post that dip. And people are still going to have fresh in their minds what happened to the watch market during the hype. It's very, very fresh, only a year ago, right? So what happens is when we go into the high season, demand goes up. I feel that the price increase is going to be higher than normal, meaning that you're not going to see that 10, 15, 20% volatility. I think it's going to be a little bit more because people still have fresh in the back of their minds in regards to, hey, look at how the market was, how much these watches have gone up. And we may see a little bit of a frenzy that may adjust the market up another 10, 20% permanently. Thoughts?
I mean, I think you covered a lot of, it's hard to follow up with that because I pretty much agree with everything that you're saying. And again, we're in an environment right now, summertime, and certain economies are slower than others. But I do get the sense that, when you talk to a lot of dealers out there on the market that do what we do, and you talk to them on the phone, one of the things that they say, which is very interesting, which is actually a indicator of things to come, is that they're bored. In other words, they want action. So we're going to create action by doing that. They're going to trade more. They're going to buy more. They're going to sell more. They're not going to sit on the sidelines because they just don't want to. And that's going to drive the market upwards again. And again,
I don't think we're going to see the kind of pricing we saw during the hype.
Of course not.
You're not going to see things doubling, but I do think that norm that me and you just discussed, those averages, right? You're going to see, come high season, you're going to see an uptick that's a little bit more than usual, and then a downtick that's a little bit less than usual overall, resulting in maybe another 10 to 20% permanent price increase across popular models. Absolutely. Guys, I think that...
I did want to finish this off by saying I wanted to do a second round of analysis because fitting Rolex, Patek, and AP into one episode can be rather long. So what do you think about doing an analysis on AP? Because I have all those data points too, and that's a very...
I think we should do AP. I think we should do Patek. You guys comment below.
AP and Patek in one or separate?
Again, this is Watch News Weekly. We do take a break from bringing you actual Watch News once in a while. So maybe in the next few episodes, after a few more episodes of Watch News, there's not a lot happening in the summertime. You know, Switzerland goes in sabbatical, not a whole lot happening. So perhaps over the next couple of months, we'll bring you Audemars Piguet, we'll bring you Patek. But we'll certainly, at the end of this year, bring you all three brands across, compared to the numbers you heard today, and average it out for the year so you guys can see how far the market has shifted. I think what you put together is absolutely wonderful. It certainly gives you a really good indicator. And at the end of the day, perhaps this is an indicator for those listening. If I'm buying this, what am I paying? Right? Because this is based on real numbers. This is real news. This isn't fake news. Guys, I wanted to thank you all for tuning in. Adrian, thank you you did some wonderful homework. I didn't expect all that. But guys, like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.